Hello everyone! Welcome to Untold History, the channel where we explore the lesser-known but pivotal events of world history. Today we move to the year 331 BC to analyze one of the most decisive confrontations in history, the Battle of Gaugamela, where the young Macedonian king Alexander the Great faced the vast Persian Empire under the command of King Darius III. This battle not only consolidated Alexander's power in the ancient world, but also marked the beginning of the end of the Persian Empire and the birth of the Hellenistic Empire. The Battle of Gaugamela, also known as the Battle of Arbela, was the climactic confrontation between the armies of Alexander the Great and Darius III in the context of Alexander's campaign to conquer the Persian Empire. The battle took place on October 1, 331 BC near the village of Gaugamela, in what is now northern Iraq. It was the third and most decisive of the great battles between the two kings, after the clashes at Granicus and Issus. While these early victories cemented Alexander's reputation as a brilliant military strategist, Gaugamela was the battle that sealed his dominance over Persia and ultimately allowed him to expand his empire into India. Alexander the Great's rise began in 336 BC, when, following the assassination of his father, Philip II of Macedon, Alexander inherited the throne of a small but militarily formidable kingdom. Philip had transformed Macedonia into a military power thanks to his reforms in the organization of the army, in particular the creation of the Macedonian phalanx, a heavily armed and highly disciplined infantry formation. With this force, Philip had unified the Greek city-states under his rule in the League of Corinth. Alexander, in his 20s, took command of this formidable army and quickly proved that he had not only inherited the throne but also his father's military and political skills. Alexander's goal, however, went beyond simple domination over Greece. From the beginning, his ambition was to expand his kingdom eastward, in particular into the vast and powerful Persian Empire, which for more than a century had been the greatest power in the ancient world. Alexander's campaign against Persia began in 334 BC, when he crossed the Dardanelles Strait with his army and entered Persian territory. In the first major battle of the campaign on the Granicus River, Alexander defeated the Persian satraps who were trying to stop his advance. Following the victory at the Granicus, Alexander continued to advance southwards, liberating the Persian-controlled Greek cities on the Anatolian coast. His next major victory occurred in 333 BC at the Battle of Issus, where he first faced Darius III in person. Despite the fact that the Persian army outnumbered the Macedonians, Alexander achieved a decisive victory at Issus, forcing Darius to flee and leaving the Persians in disarray. After the victory at Issus, Alexander headed for the eastern Mediterranean, where he conquered the city of Tyre after a long siege and then triumphantly entered Egypt. There, he was received as a liberator and was crowned pharaoh. In 332 BC, he founded the city of Alexandria, which would become one of the most important cities of the ancient world. After consolidating his control in Egypt, Alexander turned his attention back to the heart of the Persian Empire. Persian army, although defeated at Issus, was still a formidable military force, and Darius III still controlled a vast territory. As Alexander advanced eastward, Darius was attempting to reorganize his army and assemble a force large enough to stop the Macedonian. Darius decided to confront Alexander on the plains of Gaugamela, a terrain that offered advantages for his army, especially for his numerous cavalry and the famous chariots with scythes, designed to break through enemy formations. Darius is said to have gathered an immense army, composed of soldiers from all regions of his vast empire, including Medes, Babylonians, Parthians, Egyptians, and many other ethnicities. Although exact figures are difficult to determine, ancient sources suggest that the Persian army could have numbered between 200,000 and 300,000 soldiers, vastly outnumbering Alexander's army, which consisted of about 50,000 soldiers. The numerical difference, however, did not discourage Alejandro. He knew that his army, although smaller, was composed of highly trained and disciplined soldiers, while the Persian army was made up of an amalgam of troops with varying levels of experience and motivation. In addition, Alexander had proven himself to be a brilliant military strategist, capable of taking advantage of the enemy's weaknesses and maximizing the strengths of his own troops. The battle began with a series of tactical maneuvers by Alexander, who attempted to lure the Persian forces into more favorable terrain for his troops. Darius, aware of Alexander's abilities, kept his army in formation, waiting for the right moment to launch a decisive attack with his cavalry and war chariots. Alexander, however, wasted no time. Personally leading his cavalry of comrades on the right flank, he launched an attack toward the center of the Persian line, where Darius was positioned. In the midst of the chaos of the battle, Alexander saw an opportunity to attack Darius directly. With his cavalry advancing rapidly, Alexander headed toward Darius' chariot, hoping that a quick victory over the Persian king would demoralize his army. Darius, seeing Alexander approaching, panicked and decided to flee the battlefield, leaving his troops in disarray. Darius' flight was the turning point of the battle. Without their leader, the Persian army began to crumble, and the Macedonian troops took advantage of the disorder to attack from all sides. Despite the resistance of some Persian units, Alexander's victory was complete. Persian casualties were immense, while Macedonian losses were relatively small by comparison. With the victory at Gaugamela, Alexander secured control of Mesopotamia and the riches of the Persian Empire. Darius, after fleeing again, attempted to reorganize his army but was eventually betrayed by one of his own satraps, Bessos, who captured and murdered him shortly after. Darius' death marked the final collapse of the Persian Empire and the consolidation of Alexander as the new master of the known world. The Battle of Gaugamela was more than just a military victory, it was a turning point in the history of the ancient world. With the defeat of Darius III, Alexander not only destroyed the Persian Empire but also opened the door to the expansion of Greek culture throughout the Middle East, a process that would become known as Hellenization. After the battle, Alexander continued his campaign, advancing eastward and conquering regions as distant as India. Alexander's legacy as one of history's greatest conquerors is deeply intertwined with his victory at Gaugamela. It was in this battle that Alexander demonstrated that, with strategy, boldness, and leadership, a smaller army could defeat a much larger enemy. The Battle of Gaugamela remains an example of military mastery studied by historians and strategists to this day. Thank you for joining us in this analysis of the Battle of Gaugamela. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for more revealing stories in Untold history. See you in the next one.